webinar of our webinar series centering care in the MENA region. Today we have a very special guest with us from the Global Alliance for Care, our partners as well. We have with us Yara Trabulsi, who is the Outreach and Advocacy Officer at the Global Alliance for Care. Yara is a social anthropologist with experience in issues of gender, care, economic justice, migration, and public policy. She has a master's degree from the University of Oxford and a bachelor's degree from American University of Beirut, AUB. She has worked at the National Institute of Women of Mexico as a consultant for various international agencies and academic institutions such as the International Development Research Center of Canada and Columbia University. Yara, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Carla. Thank you for having me in this webinar series. I'm so excited that conversations on care are happening in this region and that Asfari is able to facilitate them. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to come in and talk about the Alliance, what we do, what are our objectives, and how we can contribute to this emerging work on this very important issue that's also gaining momentum worldwide. So I'm going to be sharing my screen. And basically telling you a little bit more about us, how the Global Alliance for Care emerges, what kind of opportunities it presents to our partners and to our members, and see how we can move forward in collaborating on the care agenda, not only in the Middle East, but also worldwide. So to give you a bit of context, the Global Alliance for Care is an initiative that was convened by the government of Mexico through its National Institute for Women and also UN Women. And it was announced at the Generation Equality Forum, first in Mexico and then launched in Paris in 2021 as this first and pioneering multi-stakeholder community to position and advance the care agenda at the local, national, and global level. And it was thought of as a space to co-create, collaborate, and act collectively across its membership. So I know I don't have to go too much into this because surely you've been talking about this for the past few weeks, but nevertheless, I think it's important to mention how we think of care, because even across movements and actors who advocate for care justice and just care economies, there are differing conceptions. And what we've tried to do is to have the widest, most inclusive definition of care, which broadly considers it as all of these activities that are undertaken to ensure the day-to-day well-being of people from various perspectives: physical well-being, economic well-being, and emotional well-being. And this can include direct care activities, such as attending directly to the needs of children, supporting an ill partner or a person with disabilities, but also indirect care activities, such as cooking and cleaning, taking kids to school, going to the market, buying groceries, etc. But also other type of activities that contribute to also care of communities, such as tending to health crises, to natural disasters, communal kitchens, etc., also can be considered care. And also the Alliance recognizes and goes from the basic premise that compared to men, women spend 3 times more time on unpaid care work. And this is worldwide, and that this contribution would amount to $11 trillion globally if it were to give a monetary value. And so for this reason, we've also adopted the 5 hours of care approach developed by the ILO, recognizing care work as essential to our societies, our economies, and our planet, and also recognizing the labor that care workers, and especially women, put into carrying out these tasks, reducing the time, the effort necessary to carry out these care activities, and also redistributing them throughout society, and also throughout gendered redistribution, so also involving men in caregiving. Rewarding also is one of these 5 hours of care, so rewarding with either a decent income, decent work conditions, or other forms of compensation like social protection. And finally, representing care workers and caregivers, giving them the opportunity to organize, to have collective action, and to be present in spaces of decision-making. So our membership as of today stands at 171. We have a very diverse membership from various sectors, which also reflects this redistribution and all of the actors that should be responsible for providing care and for being involved in care. So we have many governments, national governments, many from Latin America, some from Europe, North America, and one from Asia and Africa, respectively. But this is something we're working on improving this regional representativeness. And also many local governments, also many from Mexico, but also some pioneering local governments with regards to care provision, such as the capital district of Bogota, and also some Spanish local governments like Catalonia and Basque Country. We also have a very large sector of civil society, our largest, which is also because they are the natural pioneers of this agenda and those who make and identify the needs and interests of populations with regards to care. And it's also a very diverse sector in that it has representation of organized care workers, unions, community caregivers, also people who receive care and support, organizations that work on the rights of people with disabilities or children, others that work on new masculinities and involving men in care work. So a very diverse sector representing also the diversity of issues that this agenda includes. We also have several philanthropies, many of them investing and directly engaged in promoting more fair care societies, and a small private sector component. And finally, we have many international organizations that are working on care, many from the UN system, the ILO, UNDP, UNICEF, but also many international cooperation agencies and other forms of multilateral cooperation organizations. So together, since we are a membership-based organization, we've worked on a transformative vision of care. And this is based on, together with our membership, and it's based on the 6 premises that you can see in the screen. The first one is on the urgency of reversing the current organization of care, because we know, even though the topic of care has been present in feminist academic circles and activist circles for decades, the topic really gained visibility through the COVID-19 pandemic, because it increased and highlighted this unsustainability of the way care is currently organized, and highlighted how it leads to women's exclusion from the labor force and increases their poverty levels and gender inequality. So we recognize that we need to aim for a post-pandemic recovery that has social justice, gender equality, and human rights, with a new care system and a new paradigm with regards to care. Of course, we have a very strong focus on reducing gender inequality, because we know how gender roles contribute to this care inequality, where women are primarily tasked with providing care. And we also seek to implement a human rights approach for care workers and also care receivers. So this current social organization of care also fails to provide sufficient care for people who need it, whether that be children, persons with disabilities, older persons, etc. And we know that we need to strengthen these organizations, as well as women's organizations and caregiver organizations. We are very enthusiastic about taking on an intersectional approach, because this is an initiative that emerges from the global south, from Latin America. So we know that there are no universal solutions for providing a new social organization of care or building care societies. We need to localize these policies, these strategies in different contexts with different conditions, and also take into account differentiated necessities and interests that can arise from gender, age, socioeconomic condition, ethnicity, etc. As I've mentioned, we've adopted the 5 R's of care approach, and we also promote co-responsibility, social co-responsibility, in that states, primarily states, but also the private sector, communities and families need to be responsible for caregiving in also an accessible way, and in a way that is affordable and provides quality services. And also that all adults are co-responsible for care, especially including men. So this has translated into a work plan that we are currently focusing on, which are our outcomes for the next 2 years. The first one is to contribute to building a movement. We are a space of collective action, and we want to generate opportunities for our different constituencies and our different sectors that are part of the Alliance to work together and not work in silos in order to influence this agenda. We know that We've seen many strong movements emerged from around issues such as sexual and reproductive rights or combating gender-based violence. And we would like to see something similar happen on the issue of care, not only involving feminist movements, but also involving everyone that is affected by or that has care needs or provides care, which is, roughly speaking, the whole population. And this is a cross-cutting issue, so it also brings together issues of migration, of climate change, etc. We also are working on generating a shared narrative around care, because we know all of these different actors are working on the issue, but may not be speaking about it in the same way, may be using different concepts. So we want to have this roughly shared narrative, shared language, which is still inclusive for some differences, for some specific objectives, and that this narratives can help us engage in cultural change and in changing paradigms with regards to care. We're also working on doing advocacy and positioning this vision in local, regional, global agendas, and also with specific actors that are very important for building international, regional, or national frameworks with regards to care. And we also facilitate horizontal learning. So our membership includes pioneering actors who have been working on this issue for many years, but also we welcome new actors who are just exploring it, who are just finding out what is care, what is a care policy, and how they can contribute from their own fields. So we facilitate this collective learning so they can know more about what they can bring to the table and what change they can make in their context, and also for these more seasoned actors to know how to tackle new challenges, changing conditions, etc. And finally, we're working on our own consolidation and strengthening as an alliance. So these translate into these three priority areas, which we are working on constantly. First one is learning. So we have been organizing many exchanges of experiences, communities of practice, and we share data and knowledge on all of the different aspects of this care agenda. So, for example, we've organized activities around spreading awareness on care as a right, which is also a paradigm that has emerged from Latin America and is starting to have repercussions around the world. What does it entail to think of care as a right and not just as an activity or as an ethic? Also, we've been sharing we've been having many projects about how can financing care policies look like, or also the intersection of care with other issues such as migration, climate change, etc. We also do a lot of advocacy in multilateral spaces and spaces of international cooperation. We've had a lot of presence in the United Nations spaces such as the General Assembly, CSW, but also regional ones such as the Regional Conference of Women of Latin America, and also many forums of the Southeast Asian Association. And finally, we're doing a lot of communications activities to position messages around care to different audiences. So private sector, governments, but also different regions, because how you talk about care in Southeast Asia or in Sub-Saharan Africa can be different. So we're working on adapting these messages for different publics. And finally, so what does it entail to be a member of the Alliance? This is a very flexible process. Our members can just observe and take note of what we're doing and let that inform their own work. They can disseminate their work with Alliance members or disseminate the work that the Alliance is doing with their partners. They can also participate in our projects with information, with resources, with any other contribution that they can make. Or finally, they can come to us with a specific project proposal and seek to use the Alliance's platform, the resources and tools that it has at its disposition to maximize engagement, access spaces, etc. So what are the benefits of joining the Alliance? First of all, is being informed. We always are sharing information about important developments, opportunities, or events that are happening around the care agenda within and outside of the Alliance. They can also participate in this horizontal collective learning about what has worked in terms of care policy, what hasn't, and what still needs to be done. they can dialogue and start spreading these narratives and starting these conversations around care. They can access these key spaces to influence decision making and international regional frameworks on care. And finally, they can network and connect with all of these different actors that are moving and shaping the care agenda worldwide. So I'll just close off by sharing a few of our upcoming initiatives. I hope you will be able to attend, participate, or will be able to see you there in any way possible. We've recently launched a learning community on financing care policies and care systems. This will have around, I think, 6 sessions, and it's just started in February with different speakers and different points where the audience can engage and share their experiences or their doubts and comments. And we're also doing many events around CSW, around different aspects of the care agenda. So we're looking at how care can intersect with fiscal justice and how care policies can be financed in a fiscally just way. We're looking at how care can be positioned in the multilateral systems and what are our opportunities there. We're also going to be tackling the main review theme of CSW, which is poverty alleviation, social protection. So how does care contribute to that? And finally, we're also looking at organizing a panel on the intersection between care and climate change and how climate change affects care responsibilities. So thank you so much. I'll stop here. I'll leave you our website if you'd like to learn more about us, our email if you want to write us, if you're interested in collaborating and joining. And of course, you can follow us on our social media in case you want to keep up with anything that's happening with us. So thank you so much. I'll hand it back over to you, Carla.
Thank you so much, Yara, for this comprehensive overview of the Global Alliance for Care and how we can engage with it. I would like to open the floor for questions. Feel free to write it in the Q&A or the chat. But for me, I have a curious question for you, and I feel like it's very interesting, like when you talk about the outcomes and the objectives that you have. But we know very well that engaging with care is something that is relatively tricky. Considering the gender norms that we have, and especially in the MENA region, but also globally. And I wanted to ask you if, what do you think have been some of the challenges that you have faced in engaging or in kind of advancing the care agenda, basically?
Yeah, but that's a great question. We've had many challenges in trying to talk about the issue, basically sometimes because of the concept itself and because of the lack of familiarity with care itself. Some actors, some governments see it as just childcare, and we really want people to understand that it's so much more than that. It really depends on different audiences. Many times talking about care in global north contexts, Europe and North America is also tricky, even though they understand this in a more broad way, but they seem to think that it's only a matter of health policy. So it's a healthcare issue. And they also do not recognize that it's also a gender inequality issue, because sometimes they believe, well, in the global north, we don't have that problem anymore, or that's at least what they claim. So there's really a lot of conceptual confusion, ambiguity, and we really need to work on solidifying this common narrative, this shared narrative in a way that's also inclusive, that doesn't put people off. So this is a very tricky situation, but we are benefiting that there is a global momentum happening around care. So that's very useful. There's a lot of the recent UN declaration of the International Day of Care and Support, and 2 other resolutions that have come out of the UN. There are also regional commitments that are emerging. So this is helpful to show stakeholders there exists this kind of global international reference that you can take with regards to care. So, yeah.
And if you want to focus a bit more about the MENA region, in your opinion, what do you think is the importance of having representation from the region, especially given everything that's going on, the conflicts and the instability in the region? And how do you think the instability creates some sort of a barrier to talk about care because there are other priorities? That's one. And second, what do you think is the importance of having representation at the Global Alliance for Care in particular?
Yeah, I think the MENA region has a lot to show us with regards to how, I mean, what are the let's say the obstacles, the challenges that with regards to the care agenda? I know obviously in context of crisis, people always relegate gender issues in general to a lower priority and say this is not important. But if you take a perspective where care is at the center of life, it's at the center of making societies work and making economies function, well, it's actually should be the highest priority because especially in context of conflict, of forced migration and displacement, care responsibilities are exacerbated. And as people move around and infrastructure, health infrastructure, social protection systems break down, well, the people who are at the end in charge of compensating for that are women. And of course, they cannot cover the increased needs for care and such services that the population is facing because of these crises. So of course, the MENA region, I would say, should be we should be talking about this more, and this is why this is so great that this initiative is being launched. But and also we know that gender roles, social norms are so ingrained in this region that it's very difficult to talk about it. But we need to start the conversation. And again, social norms are usually the most resistant or the biggest obstacle worldwide. So even if in Latin America, when you have social policy, care policies or care systems, that doesn't mean that people are going to use it. And that doesn't mean also that it's going to be men who take their kids to the doctor instead of women. So it's always been the most resistant, the most fixed aspect of this issue, especially with regards to care, more than other issues such as who takes decisions in the household or sexual and reproductive health rights. It's usually caregiving is the one that is most difficult to change. So there's a problem we have everywhere, but we're working on it. I'd say.
Thank you so much, Yara. There's a question in the chat asking if you can share how they can participate in these sessions. So I leave it to you, and then I'll move into the next section of this session, which is introducing more about what the Asfari Institute is doing, and also introducing the new initiative that we are doing with the Global Alliance for Care, now that you know a bit more about it. I'm going to share my screen now. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, just before I talk about the new initiative, I would like to introduce to those that don't know what we do and who we are. Basically, the Asfari Institute for Civil Society and Citizenship is a research, knowledge, and activism hub in the region. And it was established in 2012 in the context of uprisings, especially after 2011 Arab uprisings in the region. And we are housed at the American University of Beirut. And our main mission is to bridge academia and activism on both a local and a regional scale. We have two main pillars that we focus on. It's a mix of research and advocacy. So we have many different research projects that tackle civil society issues, citizenship and activism in the region. That usually out of these projects, we have publications and op-eds and podcasts as well. We have also another pillar, which is mostly advocacy. We have a lot of panel discussions, talks, seminars, conferences, and most of the times we also host capacity building trainings for the general public, but most of the time it's usually we target activists. So currently, we have been working extensively on advancing a care agenda in the region. And there are many different initiatives or kind of activities that we have been working on to achieve this goal that we're trying to achieve. One of which is this webinar series, which is concluding with this webinar. And I'll tell you a bit about it. So we had around 5 webinars. The first was looking at care and climate justice, seeing how they can intersect and how they are related. And the second one, we had more about like care and the kafala system in the region and how to kind of look at the challenges and the opportunities to overcome these challenges. Then we had another webinar with ESQA, where we talk about, in general, the importance of working on care work in order to be able to get to gender equality. And we also tackled valuing care from an economic perspective and finding alternatives and how we can make care work paid and recognized in the economy. So basically talking about the care economy. We also have recently launched a care research grant. It's a small research grant, and we awarded it to three very good proposals or research proposals that we have. And the way that we chose these participants or these projects was based on how intersectional the lens was, the region or like the countries that we're targeting, and also the diversity of the topics. So as you can see here, one of the projects is about migrant care workers in Lebanon. The other one is kind of looking at gender roles of unpaid care work and the impact of it on maternal mental health in the Middle East. So it's kind of bridging mental health and care work. And the third one is mostly focused on Iraq, and it looks at the relationship between child domestic labor and challenges of valuing domestic work in the country. And obviously, once these research projects are complete, we will have a dissemination event where we can share all of the findings of this research, and hopefully we'd have a discussion based on them. We're also in the process of building a virtual knowledge hub on care and social production in the region. We are planning to host it on a new platform that we cannot talk much about, but it's brewing, it's in the process. And the idea is to have an online space where we can consolidate everything related to care work and social reproduction in the region, whether it's UN data or it's research products in English or in Arabic. And also podcasts and all forms of knowledge products to be consolidated in one space for those who are working on this topic and to make it easier for them to find. And for that, we're also reaching out to many organizations to see whether they have such products that are out there and to kind of put them in this online hub or knowledge hub. And finally, it's the MENA Working Group at the Global Alliance for Care that I'm going to talk a bit about. Basically, we've had this discussion for quite some time, and we finally have the chance to announce it. We are planning to form a MENA working group kind of in collaboration with the Global Alliance for Care, and it has many different objectives, but the overarching objective is advancing the care agenda in the region. And for us, it's a co-creation process. So we're in the process of forming a committee or like a working group in order to be able to have a clear idea of what it is that we want to do together. And some of the ideas that we have in mind is creating partnerships, collaborations, forming joint statements on issues related to care work in the region, or maybe having capacity building events and joint research projects, and having more like a space for dialogue and convening when it comes to care work. So in this case, we have here, if you're interested in joining or registering your interest in being part of this working group, you can scan this QR code, and I also share it in the chat where you can register your interest. Just a second. And as I said, it's a co-creation kind of process. Initially, we're aiming for around 12 activists or representatives from NGOs from the region who are interested in working on care, whatever aspect of it. It could be when it comes to the kafala system, it could be talking about the care economy, it could be about like actual care services that we have or we can host. So we hope that, and hopefully like after this webinar, we'll also disseminate it on social media so you can also share it with people that you think are interested in being part of this initiative or this working group. I'm also available, like if you have any questions regarding this, I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have. I'll give it a few more minutes. I don't know, Yara, if you have anything else to reflect on or to add based on, or maybe reflections on this initiative and the opportunities, how we can utilize this working group in order to kind of advance the agenda.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity, as I was saying, to address these specific issues that the region has in general, but also that have repercussions on care. I wanted to share that it seems that there are several governments in the region that are starting to pay attention. There is I've seen that there's a side event during CSW organized by the government of Lebanon, I think Oman, Morocco, and Jordan around care. So they're starting to pay attention, and I think a working group that has a strong voice and momentum from civil society will be very, very useful and very important to start opening these doors.
Thank you so much, Yara. I completely agree. Since we don't have any more questions, I would like to ask everyone to stay tuned and to keep an eye on our social media and also the Global Alliance for Care. As Yara said, the momentum is growing, and the more we can get people on board and the more we can facilitate such convenings and discussions around the topic, the more we are able to kind of inform the public on the importance of valuing care and recognizing care, also from an intersection perspective and not just one lens of it. And this is what we're trying to do in collaboration with the Global Alliance for Care. And yeah, that's basically it. Thank you so much, Yara, for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for listening and opening these spaces. Looking forward to keeping in touch.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.